I am being actively traumatized by this book. Girl, you are brainwashed. You are fucking crazy. Therapy. Therapy for everyone. Also for me for having to read that. We're doing this. Look, I asked you all on Instagram if you wanted a full reading vlog for this one, and you all said yes. So whatever is about to transpire, it's all on you. Don't blame me. We're gonna read this Bible-like 1,000-page book together. And I'm scared. I'm really scared because I think I'm going to hate it. And reading a 1,000-page book when you are not enjoying it, not great. That's not great. So I'm also making this vlog to hold myself accountable and actually try and finish this no matter how long it will take. And you might ask yourself why I am going to read this thinking I will hate it, and why am I already judging it before even having read it. Well, the latter, it's just pattern recognition. Whenever I pick up a book that gets described in the same way as this book does on TikTok, like dark fantasy, dark romance, just based on my earlier experiences with those type of books, they were just not good. I have to say it, like most of the popular dark fantasy, dark romance books on TikTok, I hated them. And that was mostly due to writing, but also like I'm just not a big fan of actual dark romance. Like if a man actively abuses you, mentally, physically, whatever, that's not romance, girl. I cannot swoon over that. So from what I've heard about this one, that's going to be tricky. That's going to be interesting. But despite that all, I keep hoping, because this book also gets described as a gothic, promising new fantasy release. And if there's something I love, it's gothic. And you know, whenever I see TikTok people gushing about certain books and like having their lives completely taken over by those books, I get a little jealous. Like, I want to feel that way. It's not that often anymore that I get completely consumed by a good fantasy or by like a romance fantasy. So despite it all and against my better judgment, I want to try this one because I'm curious. And if it is as good as people say, then I might actually have a wonderful time. So we'll see. I'm gonna go into it with an open mind, but also with the disclaimer warning you that based on my previous experiences with certain TikTok books, I might despise this one. And if you love this book and don't want to hear any criticism on it, I think this is not the video for you. So having said that, let's talk a little bit about what this is if you're not familiar. This is Alchemised and the author is Senlin Yu, and this has come into existence because it was first written as a Harry Potter fanfic called Manacled. It's a Hermione Draco romance. So yes, originally this was based on Harry Potter, and I want to address that a little bit because I did get some messages on Instagram for people saying like, why are you promoting anything related to Harry Potter? And I would never, because I would not touch anything Harry Potter anymore with a 10-foot pole. But I did some thinking about it, and I do truly think that this has nothing to do with Harry Potter anymore. Like, this has severed all ties with the Harry Potter world, obviously, otherwise it could never get published. The book is completely rewritten. There are no Harry Potter elements in this book anymore. J.K. Rowling doesn't get any advantage by this book being published whatsoever. So I think we should respect the author's wishes and not go looking for the original Manacled document online, and not read this in tandem or alongside Harry Potter, because it's not meant to be read that way at all. This is its own thing. I'm gonna read it as its own thing. I never read Manacled, so I'm going into this completely blind. I did hear a few things about this book already that have me a little bit worried and kind of like strengthened my feeling that I might not like this. The first thing is that this book has a lot of info dumping based on the world building. And that makes sense because obviously the fanfic was based on the Harry Potter world, so everyone already knew that world, no world building necessary. This one had to shape a completely new world and magic system, so I think the author maybe struggled with building that in. The second thing I heard is that the romance is questionable, to say the least. So yeah, we're gonna have a time. I don't know if it's gonna be a good time, and if I hate it, I hope at least this video will be entertaining in some way. The funny thing is, I actually had to get the fancy, expensive version of this book because, like I said before, not all books are easily available in Italy, and this is the only one I could find. It has sprayed edges, which are honestly stunning. It has this silver text, which the original book does not have. And it has these gorgeous illustrated end pages. And this is what the actual hardcover looks like. Stunning, I have to say, it's stunning. So at least it will look very good on the bookshelf. As if that wasn't expensive enough, I also got the audiobook because, as you saw in my last vlog, I started knitting, and it's notoriously hard to read and knit at the same time, and I hate having to choose. So I'm actually really into audiobooks lately because you can knit and listen to the audiobook at the same time, which is so fun and so relaxing. This is my scarf. This is the stay so far. I love it. I think it's going to look so cute. So yeah, we're gonna just alternate between the physical copy and the audiobook. And yeah, let's just get started, I guess. I'm gonna make a tea and settle down with this one. I'm not overthinking if I sound way too negative in this intro. I just want to clarify, I'm not actively gonna try to be a hater. Like, I'm gonna go into this book with an open mind. There's a lot of elements in this that I think I will enjoy. So I'm really like hoping I'm gonna love it. I'm not hoping I'm gonna hate it. I'm a little worried that I will. I think I've just been hurt too many times in the past. So that's all. I'm gonna give this book a fair chance, guys, I promise. I found this dark fantasy playlist that I'm gonna play. And I have some apple cinnamon tea, so I think we're ready to go. Quick update from the kitchen while I'm cooking dinner. I am currently 50 pages in, and people were not lying when they said there was going to be a lot of info dumping. I am deeply confused so far, mostly about the magic system. There's a lot of words there where I'm like, well, what is it? How does it work? And the thing that is striking me most so far is that the magic system is very medical. There's like a lot of medical procedures involved, which makes this book so far feel less fantasy and more like dystopian sci-fi, which is absolutely not one of my favorite genres. So with that, I'm not really vibing so far. But they are leaving like the medical facility now and are going to the gated mansion of like the hot evil guy. So I'm assuming some more gothic shenanigans will come in soon. I'm hoping so, at least. The other thing I'm struggling with a little bit, which kind of like makes sense, of course, is that this book clearly takes place after all the events have happened. This is when the good guys have lost the war and now everything is basically over. So the main character just thinks back a lot about all the things that have happened before this book started. But you were not there for any of it as a reader, and so far that makes it a little bit hard for me to connect to any of the characters and like the mentioned names. Like I don't have a lot of sympathy for any of the characters yet because I don't know what they've been through. Like I wasn't there for it, so that makes it kind of an interesting read, I would say. I feel like I'm starting the sequel, but I haven't read the first book, if that makes sense. So I'm curious to see how that will develop, but I'm not hating it so far. I'm intrigued enough. I am excited to meet like the male main character of the book, which is going to happen soon, I think. So I'll be back with an update later, but first I'm going to cook some nice eggplant curry. Hello, it is the next day and it is the perfectly dark and rainy day for reading. So that's what I'm going to do all day. Joe's also out here reading. So we're gonna have a cozy dark day on the couch. That's exactly how I like to spend my autumn days. Today is a very sad day. Today I have to say goodbye to my nails. They have grown out way too far, as you can maybe see. So it's time to move on. But yeah, I'm just gonna replace them with something more easy because even though I love this shape and length, it is so hard to type. And I think I'm gonna get feedback on my novel soon, so then I'll have to continue writing and I cannot do this with these nails. So I'm just gonna get like, I think a color like this actually on my own nails now, just to have some little color, but nothing crazy. So that's the plan for this morning. I'm going there at 11. Right now it's almost 10, so I still have an hour more or less to read. Yesterday in the end we ended up going to a mall because I don't know, I didn't want to be cooped up in the house all day, even though it was very cozy. But I needed to get out, and the mall is like the only place you can go when it's raining, right? So I didn't read as much as I hoped yesterday, but I did make some progress, and I will just come back with an update later. I do want to give a knitting update though. Let me get it. Look how much progress I made yesterday. I think like half of this I knitted yesterday because I'm becoming way faster with knitting, but also audiobooks. Like if I listen to an audiobook and I'm knitting, like I can go on for hours, honestly. So that's great. It's really turning into a proper scarf. I cannot wait to wear this. I'm just gonna keep going until it's a proper length, and then at the end I wanna make some like tassels or fringe with wool, because I just always think that looks really cute. Yeah, that's the plan. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm alternating between the stockinette stitch and the garter stitch. At first, I just started doing everything in garter stitch because first of all, I didn't know there were two. And second of all, that one's easier, but I get bored really easily. So at some point, I just wanted to try the stockinette stitch, and that was really fun. So in the end, I decided to start over because the other one was also looking very wonky, and just do one where I could alternate so it would stay a little bit more interesting. And I think it looks fun. I think it like emphasizes the stripy bit a little bit more, but I don't think you can tell very well on camera. Oh, there we go. Here you can see the difference between the two stitches. So safe to say, I think I found a new hobby. I hope I'm gonna stick with this because I'm really enjoying it. And it's just so calming for me to do something with my hands. Like also with TV shows and movies, I'm just knitting now the entire time. Makes it so much easier for me to pay attention. Like usually I would get distracted and look at my phone, but now because I'm knitting, I don't do that at all. So I think like mentally this is going to be a very healthy hobby for me. So I'm really planning on sticking with it. Once the scarf is finished, I think I'm gonna try knit my first sweater. So that's gonna be exciting.
As the ribbon cutting commenced, a crossbow bolt emerged from one of the nearby buildings. It narrowly missed the governor, instead striking the mantle. Lancaster's visits to Spirefell abruptly ceased. Aurelia floated. The butler accompanied her, carrying a folding medical table, setting it up in the middle of the room before leaving. The lint on her hand was gone. It was like someone had kicked her repeatedly in the lower abdomen.
Okay, nails done. I just got some basic burgundy nail polish. It was expensive though. This was 75 euros. Like, I don't know, I don't really go to professional nail salons, but I feel like it's quite pricey for normal nails like this, but whatever. I also got some sushi, and then this afternoon I have to shoot some content for Instagram and TikTok, and hopefully after that I can read again because I'm getting very intrigued, but more on that later. If you've ever wondered what it's like to be an influencer and make some fun little fashion reels, this is what it's like. It's just piles and piles of clothes on the floor that you have to clean up afterwards. It's great. Let's talk, shall we? Let's talk about Alchemised while I do my makeup. I have officially passed the 250 page mark. I am being actively traumatized by this book. And I need to tell you a little bit about me so you can understand me better. A few years ago, I made the active decision to not watch any graphic and violent media anymore. I don't do true crime, I don't watch like super violent and graphic horror movies, I don't do movies or TV shows where people get tortured or abused or like whatever, because it makes me feel bad. The first movie I ever remember giving me a panic attack was 12 Years a Slave. I think, I don't know, I must have been about 15, 16 and my parents were watching it, and I just heard all the graphic torture going on from the kitchen, and I just started hyperventilating. And that was like my first experience where I was like, okay, watching movies does something to me, like very strongly. And as I became more spiritually aware with the years, I also became more sensitive to things that just feel very dark, like things that carry a heavy, dark energy, and things I want to stay very far away from. This might be all very like weird to you, like very woo-woo, but for me this is just how I chose to engage with media. With books, I never really had that issue so much. I can handle much more in books because it's not so in your face, like you don't hear the sounds, you don't see the things, so you can sort of imagine things in a way that you can handle them, if that makes sense. And also it just feels more distant. I can close the book whenever I want to. So books have never really caused any problem for me until Alchemised. Let me tell you that I slept like 5 hours last night because I had so many nightmares because of this fucking book. I think this book is vile, to be honest, like so far at least, and just really dark and traumatizing for the sake of it. Like, I don't know what the author was thinking, but it just feels like they wanted to make this book as traumatizing as possible for no reason. Like, so far I don't really see there is a deeper message to it, and since this is also going to be a love story, I am deeply concerned. I realize I cannot talk and do my makeup at the same time because I keep pausing. I need to keep going. Anyway, I knew this book was going to be dark, obviously. It's set in a world where the bad guys basically won the war. It's the aftermath of that. But what I did not know is that this is basically a fanfic of The Handmaid's Tale as well. So I'm going to give you a trigger warning right now. I'm going to talk about sexual assault. But yeah, this book has a similar concept to The Handmaid's Tale, except I don't see it being a criticism of our current society. I think it's just put in there for maximum traumatizing effect and also for a setup for the main character Helena and the bad guy Kane to get physical. And I just feel disgusted even saying that. Yeah, he willingly and knowingly rapes her multiple times as part of this sort of repopulation program where very powerful magicians or whatever, alchemists, are used to breed more powerful alchemists, basically. And that is a plot, for sure, that's possible. Like, The Handmaid still also exists, and that is not some kind of trauma porn. I think that's a great criticism on our society. The problem I have with this one is that I know the main characters are going to end up together, or at least I'm assuming so, because this was based on a Draco Hermione fanfic where they, get together. So this is basically a very, very horrifying, strong case of Stockholm Syndrome. And like just the way everything is described and how dark the mood is constantly. And then the rape thing came in, it just sort of pushed me over the edge, I think. And the worst thing is, like, I'm not hating the book itself, like the writing is not horrifying, like it's actually better than I thought it was going to be. Like, the worst thing is, like, I feel myself drawn to reading more because it is intriguing, like the story itself, I want to know what happens, but it's just also so dark and traumatizing that I sort of feel like a prisoner of this book as well, to be honest. I don't really know what other way to describe it. I feel like I'm being very dramatic, but this book is really, really vile, guys. And the fact that people are actively romanticizing it on TikTok, like, I know I shouldn't be surprised anymore, but somehow I still am. Like, I saw a girl commenting somewhere, like, oh my god, when he tells her to close his eyes when he rapes her, so he doesn't have to see himself raping her when he goes through her memories. And that was like a chivalrous thing to do for them. Therapy for everyone, also for me for having to read that. So that's sort of where I'm at right now with this book. I do think I'm going to continue reading for a bit because I posted about this on Instagram, and I know I'm very close to part 2 of this book, which is going to be a big flashback to before the end of the war. So when Helena is still with like the good guys, and a lot of people said that that part is going to make the book a lot better. And also I think it will be a little less heavy, I'm not sure, we'll see, but that's what I'm hoping for. Yeah, I'm being honest, this is very like hater of me, but I didn't expect the writing to be great, but it is better than a lot of other dark romances I have read snippets of, in terms of how the emotions are expressed, in terms of dialogue. Like, I think all that is pretty good. Like, the only really big issue is the info dumping. Like, it is a really big problem. It is so confusing, so convoluted. The world building, the magic system, I don't understand any of it, and there's so many long, boring paragraphs on them. There is just so much going on. Like, part of it is alchemy, part of it is working with metals, part of it is very medical. They do a lot with like medical stuff, like operations, healing, syringes, pills. The world building might be even worse in the sense that it's both extremely boring to read about it and I still don't understand what the world is like exactly. And despite everything, I am still curious. Maybe that is the power of this book, that yeah, it is horrifying, but somehow you still want to keep reading. Okay, all done except the dark circles, but we're not going to be able to do anything about that today, are we? So let's just hope I sleep better tonight. For sure I'm not gonna read this book after 9. I'm gonna give my brain a little time to calm down. Also, I'm wearing the same outfit as yesterday, in case you were confused, because it's comfy and I want to be comfy today. This afternoon I might go to the racetrack in Monza because my boyfriend's at work there. He's a car racing photographer and usually he's like traveling all over the world, but sometimes he gets to work at our local racetrack in Monza. So I could do a little visit your boyfriend at work day. I think it'll be fun. Car racing is very different from my usual content and vibe, I would say, but it's also a big part of my life, surprisingly. So I might take you along for that. I know.
Sulit ya truk.
Are you so cozy? Are you the coziest little guy? Yes, you are. Hello, it's been about a week, I think 5 days since I last filmed, and a little over a week since I last gave you an update on this monster. And I took my time because I wanted to read a bit of a larger chunk before I came back to you with an update, because I wanted to be a little bit informed on what's going on in this story. Last time I spoke to you, I was at page 270, I think, and now I am at page 704. So I read a large chunk, you guys. I have been doing my homework. So of course the big question is, did it get any better? And I am really sorry that I have to say no. If anything, it got worse. It got worse, guys. I'm sorry. I was so looking forward to the flashback that started happening around 270 pages. Because I told you guys I was missing a lot of background information on the Resistance and Helena's friends in the Resistance. Especially Luke, who was like the most important figure in the war. He was like God-chosen warrior that everyone pinned their hopes on. Everyone fought for him, including Helena. And you learn that he died, and she's constantly sad about that. But you as a reader don't really care because you don't know who he is. So I was hoping the flashback would fix that, because the flashback takes place during the war, when Helena is still with all her Resistance friends and she's actively fighting in the war. So you get to know Luke, who is supposedly her best friend. However, you barely get any contact between Helena and Luke. And if there's contact between them, it's weird, it's strange. Helena is avoiding him. He's trying to hang out with her and she's just like, no thank you, I have to work. And you don't get any friendship moments. There's no lighter moments. There's no banter. There's no visible evidence that these people were friends first before they started fighting in the war. So again, you don't care about these people. Like, nothing about what's happening in this book makes me care about any of the characters, because none of them have a personality outside being traumatized by war. Mind you, I'm at page 704 currently, and the flashback is still going on. The flashback in this book is longer than the actual present of this book, which is fine if it added anything to the story, but it does not. Like, I thought I was bored at the start of this book with all the info dumping. That was nothing compared to how bored I am right now. It is 500 pages so far of the same thing. Helena working in the hospital and Helena doing her extracurricular activities for the Resistance, which I won't tell you about because that's a spoiler. But it's just the same thing over and over and over again. And I cannot believe I'm saying this, but I actually liked the part before this better, even though Helena was repeatedly being tortured and sexually abused, and I was slowly sinking in a deep dark hole of despair. That was better than being so bored with this repetitive story. Maybe it would be interesting if I cared about this war, about the characters, about what was happening, but I don't. It really feels like reading a history book about a war that happened a long time ago in a country you've never been, people you don't know about, and you're asking yourself, why should I care? Why should I care about this? And I don't care, I'm sorry. And I do realize that the purpose of the flashback for a large part is to show a different perspective on the whole story between Helena and Cain, like the hot evil guy. Like, the flashback is meant to sort of put him in a different light. But I still think he's a dickhead, so that's also not really working for me. And I still don't understand the chemistry between them at all. Like, I understand that this book wanted to be really dark and I wanted to show like the dark side of war and the effects of it, the layers of politics involved. I understand that was the goal. But this book could have benefited so much from blending it in with human moments. With moments of hope, with moments of lightness, moments that furthered or like explained certain character relationships, but none of it was there. And for me, it unfortunately also doesn't deliver on the whole political layer aspect of it. I don't think it's that well done. If you want to read a good fantasy book about war, there's like so many others I could recommend to you right now that are 1,000 times better, like Mistborn and The Poppy War on top of my head. I don't know. if I am not enjoying this at 700 pages, I think I'm not gonna like give this a good review at 1,000 pages. So far, I would not recommend this. I am gonna keep going, of course, and hopefully the moment we switch back to the present tense will redeem some of this, but I doubt it. So scarf update. I think it's done. Like, I think I'm gonna end it soon, and then I'm gonna add some fringe to the end of it. But I think this is long enough. I can put it around me like this and put it back, and it's so cute. At least I've alchemized the thing for that my scarf went really, really fast. Guys, I finished Alchemised, and if it wasn't for this vlog, I don't know if I ever would have. So let's get into my final thoughts. First of all, I have a massive cold, so I'm just sort of talking through my nose and sniffling and snottering, so I'm very sorry about that. But I wanted to finish this video. I already waited a day longer, but I need to get this over with. So we're gonna do this, and I'm gonna try to keep it short because I cannot really breathe, and also I've talked so much in this video already. It's already so long. So I'm gonna try to keep my final thoughts short. So let's briefly talk about part 3 of this book. As I told before, it goes back into present tense after the huge flashback in which you get to know Helena's and Kane's past. Then you switch back to the present with all this new information. Luckily, the story gets more interesting again in part 3. Like, the insane repetition and boredom stops, and things start speeding up a little and start like rushing towards the conclusion. And the word rushing is deliberate because it does rush. And that feels so annoying, especially because the middle part, the largest chunk of this book, which is 600 pages, is so goddamn slow and boring. And then the conclusion you've been waiting for the entire book sort of gets added as an afterthought. It gets rushed through, and like the main final battle, like showdown, happens off page. The main characters are not even there for it. So that felt a little bit like betrayal to me. I was a little bit pissed off, not gonna lie. But I have to say I was entertained during those last chapters. I was not dragging myself through it like I did with some of the other chapters. So that's what I have to say about that last part. But let's just get into my overall thoughts about the book. Do I think this book was good? I do not. And this is like the interesting thing, because so many people are calling this book a masterpiece online, like objectively a masterpiece. And maybe subjectively it can be, but objectively it is just not. Like, there are certain parameters and like rules by which we can measure if a piece of literature is objectively good. And this one just doesn't come out very positive. Like, this book just does a lot of things very wrong. And as I said before, I was pleasantly surprised by the writing, in the sense that it was not as bad as I thought it was going to be, but it doesn't mean it was good by any means. The first problem I have with this book was the info dumping. Most information about the magic system and the world and the history is sort of told in this very boring, plain third-person voice. It's all just sort of vomited on the page. It's not naturally woven into the story, so it's very much tell, don't show, which is like one of the worst writing mistakes you can make. So that was a problem. The second huge problem I had with this book was the repetition and like recycling of scenes. It's just the same thing happening over and over and over again, and there was just so little happening outside of that I'm surprised it got published this way. This could have been cut down by half, I feel like. And lastly, I think this book was just marketed wrong, and I see what they're trying to do. They're trying to get it away from that fanfiction label, and they're trying to get it away from the romance label, because calling this a romance is extremely problematic. So I understand why the publisher did not want to do this. but in its essence, it still is a dark romance fanfiction. The rest of the story is just not strong enough to hold it up in any other way. They're trying to sell this as a gothic, dark fantasy war tale, but it's not. Like, none of it is good enough to warrant that label. This is not a gothic book. It steals some of the imagery of some gothic literature, but in the story itself, there's nothing gothic. And in the end, this is a romance, which is very problematic given everything that's going on in this book. Which brings me to all the horrific trauma porn that's going on. Like I said before, I don't think dark themes and, dark plots are inherently bad. They can be done very well. But they have to serve a bigger purpose, first of all, and those traumatizing events should not be glorified. And that's where this book is becoming slightly problematic. I would not necessarily say this book glorifies all the terrible things that happen, but it doesn't treat them with much sensitivity either. Like, for instance, the theme of rape. No matter what history the author gives to the character's relationship, what happened in this book was rape, there was no consent given, and that becomes very dangerous when later there are scenes where Helena says things as like, we were both raped, even though that's not the case. She was raped, but she's sort of denying that because Kane also went through heavy stuff. So she utters the sentence, we were both raped, which is just straight up denial of what happened. And that is a very dangerous line to walk because it can give readers the impression that sometimes rape is okay if you're both traumatized enough, which is obviously, that is just insane. Second of all, Kane is a mass murderer. There is no other way to describe him. He is a war criminal. He murdered thousands of people, amongst which children, without remorse, and he does it all in the name of love. I don't think I need to explain how problematic that is. First of all, because Helena doesn't seem to give a flying fuck. Like, she feels bad for him that he has to go through this. But you always have a choice. Even if it costs him his life, you always have a choice in these things. And he made the choice to murder thousands of innocent people. It becomes worse when Helena somehow convinces herself that it's her fault that he is this way. There's a quote that says something like, if he is a monster, then I am the one who made him one. Girl, you are brainwashed. You are fucking crazy. None of that is real love or romance. That is simply trauma bonding. And even though it doesn't glorify rape per se, it does glorify abuse and make readers believe that love can somehow be born of this horrific dynamic of the oppressed and the oppressor. Kane is not worthy of redemption just because he loves Helena. That's just not how it works. And I do understand that there is a desire for love stories that are kind of like, oh, I would burn the whole world down for you. I don't care about anyone, just about you. And I have been guilty of being one of those people that complained in the past that when a book is labeled enemies to lovers, they are never actually real enemies. I cannot say that about this book. They are real enemies. I can give them that. But loving someone does not make a literal war criminal a redeemable character. And as an author, you need to be the wise one and keep the right tone for this type of story, because readers will romanticize anything. Like, we all know that readers can be crazy. So you as the author need to be there and make sure that certain things cannot be romanticized. I'm editing this video right now and I just wanted to quickly add something in case you think I'm being dramatic. I am not. Yesterday I came across a TikTok with AI fan art of Manacled, which is the original Alchemised. And in this fan art, they depict part of the rape scene. And this made me curious. I typed Manacled into the search bar of TikTok, and the first thing that popped up was Manacled table scene, which is the rape scene in that book. If that doesn't show how far people can go with this and how far they can take a storyline like this, that shows why authors need to be careful with how they depict something. Because these readers are romanticizing this. They want to see it in AI art and they want to engage with it. And yeah. Like The Handmaid's Tale, which this book takes a very large inspiration from, would never be romanticized just because of the way it is written. So if that's the kind of story you want to tell, fine. But then you need to tell it in such a way that it makes sense. And this one is simply written in a way that screams romantic fanfiction. So that makes me think there's a severe lack of sensitivity around these topics.
and I am fully convinced they are only in there for shock value and entertainment. I cannot draw another conclusion. I really try to keep an open mind. I tried to listen to other people that said like, no, this is a very deep work of art about the consequences of war and trauma. It is not. This is a trauma porn where really horrible things happen just for shock. And I get why people think this is good, because I was drawn in as well. Like, it is so mesmerizing to read such horrible things. You want to keep going, you know? It just sort of draws you in. And because this book is so long and it was such a big part of my days for like 2 weeks, I did feel like sort of a loss when I ended it, which made me think that I might have really enjoyed it. I was so confused. So I really needed to take a few days and step back and, you know, think about what I really thought of this book. But objectively, this is just really bad and problematic. I think I'll leave it at that. There's so much more I could say about this, but this video is already long enough and I think I've made my points. This was definitely an interesting experiment. I just wanted to give one of these books a chance for once and see what I actually thought, because usually I stay away from certain TikTok books that I know are going to be badly written but are just marketed so well by their readers that I am becoming tempted, you know, to pick them up. Like, if something is marketed as dark romance, gothic, dark fantasy, like, of course I want to read it. But yeah, this really proved to me that my intuition is probably right with all of those other books as well. I just wanted to try it for once and do like a little extensive yappy reading vlog. I hope it was not boring. I feel like this vlog was so extremely boring, just talking about the same book and repeating the same thing over and over again. Not unlike the plot of this book, actually. So I'm really sorry if this was not that interesting. I just thought I'd try it for once. If you made it this far, thank you for watching. I promise the next vlog I'll talk about loads of different books that I hopefully will love. So I hope to see you in the next one. Bye! Now I'm just gonna play Nintendo Switch on the couch for the rest of the day and feel sorry for myself.